Everybody and their mother is saying, just monetize your knowledge. You can put your everything you know into a course. It's easy, right? Wrong answer. Knowing how to do something doesn't mean that you know how to teach it. I'm Dr. Katrina Mincham, and I've been designing and redesigning courses online since 2009. So that monetize your knowledge advice is everywhere. In fact, someone told me that I should change my Pinterest approach because monetize your knowledge is what everybody is looking for, which is fine. Monetize your knowledge is the foundational advice across the whole course creation industry. People say things like, you're already an expert. Just turn it into a course. If you want to know what I think expertise is, subscribe to my newsletter. Link is in the description because I talked about expertise and what actually makes an expert. They want to tell you to package your knowledge and sell it, that your expertise is valuable, monetize it. And it sounds simple and it feels empowering. And yes, you do know your shit, but that doesn't mean you know how to help somebody else do the things that you know how to do. Teaching is its own separate subject matter expertise. And so this concept of just monetize your knowledge is setting people up for failure because it's not that simple. People don't need more information. And so why this is a problem is that expertise becomes conflated with your ability to teach. And those two things are not the same. If you've ever sat in a really boring course where someone is just talking at you and you can't really remember what you actually learned, then you have seen this in action. That person standing in the front of the room talking at you knows a shit ton of stuff, but they haven't effectively taught you anything. Same goes for every course that you've ever bought thinking this is going to be the answer, and it was just a content dump. Knowing how to do something or just knowing a lot of information about something is completely different from being able to help others do the same thing. So you might have spent years developing your expertise. You might just be 6 months ahead of the people that you're trying to teach. You're past that point where things that used to take you hours are taking you hours, right? Those things now take you seconds. You sometimes might not even think about it. Processes that were once a very deliberate part of a workflow happen automatically. Connections that you see instantly, beginners can't see them at all. That means that your expertise might be your superpower, but it is also your blind spot. I said it once and I will say it again. Expertise equals amnesia. When you become an expert, you don't have to think as hard about doing things that previously took a lot of cognitive effort. Steps become automatic. It's hard to remember what it felt like to not know. If you think about remembering what it was like to learn how to drive or ride a bike, or if you're as old as me, attach an attachment to an email for the first time, you can't. It's really difficult to do that. And it can make you terrible at teaching, right? Unless you're really intentional about designing a learning experience instead of just dumping what you know. So how does this show up in a course? You might explain a concept and think that's clear, or you might use industry jargon or give a deeper dive than they need, assuming that they'll be able to follow you. And so what happens is students get stuck and then you're not sure why. Because these things seem obvious to you, but what's happening is you're skipping steps. The connections that you're making automatically, someone else can't make yet. And so you have to help them make it, right? Your job when you're teaching someone is to reduce the cognitive load so they can actually learn something that they can take action on. So maybe you've skipped steps. Maybe you've used jargon they don't understand. Jargon is words that are typically attached to an industry. I know lots of jargon. I've got a PhD. I've got jargon coming out my ass, right? I don't use it in here. And if I do, I'm defining it constantly. So in relation to, or related to skipping steps, you might jump ahead. You might also be assuming background knowledge or context that they just don't have yet. So we're going to do an example of what expertise amnesia actually looks like. So I recently audited a course where I had questions all the way through. Every single step of the way, I had a question. Things that as a potential student, I just wouldn't know how to do. And the course creator was confused. They thought it was basic information. It was stuff everybody knew. And for her, it was, right? Her brain automated those steps for her. So she didn't have to think too hard about them. But I would have been in a position where I was still thinking real hard about them. So to someone new, it was completely unclear. And she couldn't see the gaps because her expertise was filling those things in automatically. And that's why just monetize your knowledge fails. It assumes that teaching is telling people what you know. But teaching is actually breaking down what you do automatically into steps other people can follow. Monetize your knowledge assumes that your expertise translates directly into course content. But expertise has to be reverse engineered, right? I call it backwards design for beginners because it's not about content, it's about actions. And the content should always support the actions. It's like saying, I know how to drive. I could teach somebody else to drive. If you've ever tried to teach somebody else to drive, you know it's not exactly the same thing. So what happens when you skip steps, right, is people get confused, they get overwhelmed, they get frustrated, they quit, and they get no results, right? And these are all things that are bad for you. It's bad for them and it's bad for you. It has a cost. Students don't finish the course. They don't get results. They don't leave testimonials or refer others. Your marketing becomes harder because you have no proof that it works because it hasn't. And you might think that the marketing or the pricing is your problem when in fact it's deeper than that. The real problem is the course isn't working because it wasn't designed for learning. It was designed to monetize knowledge, which doesn't actually work that way because learning doesn't work that way. Okay, so hopefully I've convinced you why just like monetize your knowledge is bullshit advice. The next thing I'm going to do is talk about methods for filling in those gaps, right? So the first one is working backwards. So start with the end result, the end goals, and work backwards. What's the step right before you know that goal has been reached? And then what's the step before that? And the step before that? And then keep going until you reach where beginners actually start. Method 2 is watch a beginner try. And so this is a really good thing for a beta test, but have someone attempt your process that's never done this thing before. Don't help them, just watch them and take notes. Where are they getting stuck? What questions are they asking out loud? And these are your gaps. Method 3 is define every term every time, especially early on in a course. So go through your content, go through your instructions. Circle or identify every term or concept that feels like basic to you. Ask yourself, would someone brand new know what this means? If not, you need to define it or teach it first. If you're unsure, you could take that same word and go ask your audience, like, hey, do you know what this word means? Hey, let's play a game. Let's define this word and see what people say. Method 4 is checking your connections. And so this is looking for places where you say just, or simply, or obviously, or clearly, right? So these are kind of red flags for places where you might be skipping steps or glossing over something. Just connect these two pieces. Okay, well, how do they connect? Simply implement this strategy. Okay, well, what does implementation look like step by step, right? Method 5 is test the why. So for each step that you're having them do, why are we doing this step now? This is to help both you and them. Why doesn't it come later? Why doesn't it come earlier? If you can't articulate why, then your clients aren't going to understand the logic behind what you're having them do. And if they don't understand, they can't troubleshoot when something goes wrong. So you need more steps and not more depth, because this isn't about monetizing knowledge. It's about helping someone do the things that they came to you to help them do. We don't learn by pouring knowledge into someone else's head. So can you actually monetize your knowledge? Yes, but only if we change the definition. So monetizing your knowledge should not be dumping everything you know in a video. Instead, it should be reverse engineering the things that you know how to do into actual teachable steps. It should not assume that your knowledge speaks for itself. Instead, it should be a designed learning experience that accounts for what beginners do not know yet. Not just the information they don't have, but also what they don't know what to do. It is also not, I am an expert and so I can teach. Instead, it is, I am an expert, and so I need to be really fucking careful about the steps that I skipped because they don't need more depth, they don't need more information. And when people are confused, we can kind of fall into more explanation, more content, more examples. Those things are important, but typically they need the opposite. They need space, they need steps, they need time to actually implement things. So, the real work of course creation isn't sharing all of your expertise, right? Your expertise is what got you here to the point where you think you can create a course. But creating a good course that gets people the results that they want, that takes instructional design, and that is a whole other area of expertise. You have to be a beginner again in that area. You have to make visible what's invisible to you. You have to slow down your automatic processes and actually articulate each step. And that's the work the monetize your knowledge BS skips, and why so many courses fail. Not sure if your course is skipping steps? Book a free 15-minute consult, link is in the description, and we'll try to pinpoint exactly where students are getting stuck and how to fix it. In next week's video, we're moving from getting them unstuck to making sure they don't get lost. If it's not there, it'll be there next week.